Everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Meh, he's okay. All right, guys. Today I want to talk about the astrology of numbers, and this is really about archetypal studies. And this was my foundation that I learned when I was growing up um, from my parents, mainly from my father. Early on, it was all talk about like yin and yang and five transformations, and then nine key and 10 heavenly stems, 12 earthly branches, and all sorts of stuff. Not many people really know what I'm talking about, even, but I'm here to share it with you. So I'm going to share my screen just to give you an idea. Then we'll jump into some other stuff. Uh, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. All right. Five phases of transformation, or the five elements. I think everybody knows what yin and yang is, but yin and yang is a lifelong study, and it is related to the five phases of transformation, the five transformations we call them, which are similar to the four elements, but it's a bit more unique. It's a little different. I don't want to say more unique. It's a little different. First of all, there's five. So that's instead of four elements in astrology, there's five phases of transformation. But it's also tied into yin and yang. And yin and yang, although very, very simple, is very, very complex and hard to understand. Not hard to understand. It's simple to understand. It's hard to really master, like anything really simple. The simpler it is, the harder it is to master. And people get confused by yin and yang all the time. But for understanding archetypes, studying yin and yang is excellent. And basically, the way to study yin and yang is to try and organize everything into yin and yang. And everything's relative. So like you can't just be like it's yang. It's compared to what? A lot of times it's compared to us as the center, right? Like if you're talking about food, which it often was in my family and community, something like salt would be considered yang, and sugar would be considered yin. Salt contracts, right? Like if you take salt, it dries your mouth out. You want something sweet or wet. If you have a lot of it, right, makes you thirsty, dries you out. Put salt on a carrot or a cucumber, all the water comes out and it shrivels up. And sugar does the opposite, right? It really expands, bloats. If you eat a lot of sugar, you become bloated, fat, right? Sick, weak, and eventually it'll kill you. Salt will do the opposite. It'll like really dry you out and make you stiff and hard and angry. And then, if you don't expand, then you'll die of thirst or whatever, of hypertension probably, something like that. But yeah, the point is not to go too deep into any one of these things, but I want to explain archetypes and numbers and how to understand them better. So just bear with me. Five phases of transformation, or the five elements. The theory of five elements explains how all the vital substances cycle through various stages of transformation, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read it all. Water is associated with the potential of new life. So water is vitality. You can see it here. I don't know if it's too small, but here's the five transformation wheel, right? And you can see yin and yang is in the center. It's integral. Same thing. Like you can't talk about five transformations and not yin and yang, because in fact they have the 10 heavenly stems, which are the five transformations times yin and yang, right? Yin water, yang wood, yang wood, yin fire, yin earth, yang earth, yin metal, yang metal, right? And then the further differentiation of that is nine star key, feng shui astrology, which I'll talk about next. But here's like the C. So metal, let's start with metal. Metal is like a stasis. It's a state of stasis, a sleepness. It's like transition period, like a seed, right? A seed can last a long time. A seed can last. They actually found a seed that was a date palm seed that was like 2,000 years old, and they sprouted it and grew. That's because metal is like very contracted, and it will stay that way. When we're asleep, it's in a metal state. It's like a stasis. If we're like an egg in a womb, that's this sort of stasis, or eggs in general, right? All seeds kind of have this metal quality because they're just like, they stay that way. They can be dried out. They're hard. They're simple. And they're just waiting for some water, right? How do seeds sprout? Water. How do eggs fertilize? Water, semen, it's water, right? Water energy, right? And so water is the fertilization stage where a seed starts to germinate, and or the egg becomes fertilized and it starts to change and grow and expand. And it's the horizontal floating stage. Water is full of vitality and it is very nourishing and it feeds all of life, water, right? And then from there we have the wood stage. That's the sprouting, and then the full blooming, blossoming into full grown planthood, right? Tree, if it's a tree, it's a giant tree. If it's a rice plant, it grows into rice seeds and whatnot. Well, not the seeding. The seeding is later. That's actually so the fire stage is like the flowering of the plant. If we're talking about people, that's like the culmination of life. This is growth, upward growth. It's going like this, circle, clockwise, right? The fire is like the culmination, right? I mean, there's so many associations. I'm really doing a very, very brief overview. Fire is the flowering. Fire is like spices and colors. Yeah, fruit. I guess you could say fruit has some fire nature, but it's almost moving more towards the earth, right? There, especially so sweet fruit would be more fiery, and then you get the more savory fruits are more earthy, and starchy roots are also earthy. Earth is the creation of the seeds, which would be the next stage fully, so the fruit has the seeds in it, and when the fruit dies and just all that's left are the seeds, that's a return to the metal stage. Earth is kind of like a stage of death, right? It's earthy. When food compost, it returns to earth. That's how we make earth. That's how we make soil. So these are very literal things, right? Fire produces ash. Wood burns into fire. Water nourishes wood. Metal, which is minerals, nourishes water, right? So these things this is the complementary cycle, the clockwise. Then you have the what's the word? The disharmonious cycle, the destructive cycle, right? So metal chops down wood, right? Axe will chop down a tree. Wood binds earth with the roots, sucks it up and holds it in, utilizes it, right? Earth muddies water. And if you have if you put earth and water, it's no longer water, it's mud, right? Water puts out fire and fire melts metal. That's the destructive cycle. That's why there's this star. So that's why it's really interesting to use to study 5 transformations. Then it gets even more complex when you talk about the yin and yang of it, right? Yin earth, yang earth, yin metal, yang metal, yin water, yang metal. What are the differences between them? And there's some more favorable than others. For some reason I don't remember the too detailed, but yin water was better than yang water for some reason. It was just more harmonious, right? That's one thing. But it's a very complex study. It's very involved, and it ties into Japanese and Chinese astrology. Japanese took it more towards 9 key, which is 1 through 9, the numbers 1 through 9. And I studied this all throughout most of my life, almost all my life. Yin and Yang was first, then 5 transformations, then 9 key, right? So 2, 5, 9. And so I'll briefly describe 9 key. 1 is water. 1 water, right? 1 water is vitality. It's sexual, potent, insecure, but gathers energy throughout their life. Then there's 2 soil. There's 3 different soils. 2 soil, which is the earth, right? Mother, sacrificing, slow moving, nourishing, caring, that sort of thing. Then 3 tree and 4 tree. 3 trees, young tree, like the sprout, it's symbolized by lightning. 4 tree is symbolized by the fully grown tree. And yeah, 4 is very emotional. 3 is very shocking, right? Then we get to 5 soil, which is the center, and it doesn't really have an element. It's kind of symbolized by the human being, right? We are very I don't know. We're just in a class by itself, right? We don't really belong to some natural phenomena the way that everything else does. Then we get to 6 metal and 7 metal. 6 metal is a very contracted yang metal. And it is more like practical metal. 6 metal is practical metal, like iron for buildings, or metal for cars and things like that, where you're doing real, like, heavy duty stuff with it. So number 6 is a natural leader, represented by the Father in heaven. Number 7 is more it's like jewelry metal, like gold and silver and things like that, ornamental, right? So it's a very fundamentally different quality between like steel I-beams and a fine gold earring, right, or necklace, right? And it's symbolized by the lake. And it's very social, brings people together, very pretty, nice, all that. Then you get 8 soil, which is the mountain, right? So 2, 5, and 8 are the triple soil natures. It's three soil numbers. 8 is the mountain. It's very ambitious. It's gathering. It's hard. It's intellectual. It likes to study and gather resources. And number 9 is fire. And so like 1 water and 9 fire only have 1 number. Wood and metal have 2, and earth has 3 numbers. So that's the 9 key. And I want to show you the 9 star key calculator. You can go here if you want. There's several websites, and I should make a video about 9 key all on its own, but it'll look something like this. You get 3 numbers, and first number is your basic nature, second number is your mental emotional nature, third number is sort of like your outward appearance. I'm a 611, meaning metal, water, natural leader, but bright, independent mind, but also a bit insecure. And people in my community, they didn't bother to learn Western astrology. They only ever studied 9 key, which is ignorant. If you ask me, it's fucking ignorant, because then they just go around being like, with a very limited knowledge, pegging people in this tiny little box and saying, oh, you're this and that. And I always got like, everything was blamed on my insecurity, when I'm like, guys, my ascendant Lord Mars is conjunct the MC in Leo. Like, I don't lack confidence. Yes, I have some insecurities like everyone, but I also have some extremely confident things going on. So fuck off. Like, you're too stupid to understand. So yeah. But here's the magic square. And it's magic square because this is the sort of like the Aries natural zodiac, with Aries at the 0 point, with this is sort of like the 9 key natural version of this natural zodiac, and it's a magic square. Every way you add it up equals 15, right? 4 plus 9 plus 2 equals 15, right? That's 13, 15. 8, 15 plus 7 is 15. 9 plus 6 is 15. 4 plus 3, 7, 8, 15, right? Every single way is 15. But then there are other ways. There's so many different squares. Like, you could put 6 in the middle, and 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how you get the numbers. But that's a little too involved. But I grew up studying this stuff. And this is all just numbers, right? What 9 key taught me is that numbers themselves are significant, are extremely significant. And it's something that's lost in Western astrology. We don't really take into a consideration the value of the numbers, but the numbers mean something. The number 1 means something, and it's related to the nature of water. In Western astrology, 1 translates to Aries, fire. But so that's interesting. Why in Japanese astrology does 1 relate to water? And in Western astrology, 1 relates to fire. Well, I can tell you, 1 is water because it's the start of life, right? It's the fertile seed. And that's where all life starts, right? And in Western astrology, 1 relates to Aries being number 1. Aries is number 1. Aries nature is very tied into the idea of being number 1, right? That's very significant with Aries. Aries is the head. Aries is concerned about itself. These are all number 1, looking out for number 1, right? They're both tied. They're both have significance, even though they're different. 1 water, one fire. All right, so let's look at that. I don't think we need the charts for this, because I'm just talking about numbers. So just think numbers here. We don't really need the charts. They're just numbers. This is the astrology of numbers. So let's go back. Like, so 1, Aries, and this is 1 out of 12 as opposed to 1 out of 9. I just want to share a little context to how I arrived at this kind of thinking, because it's very significant, and it's relevant, it's valid, right? I've thought about this for a long time, for years, right, and applied it in different situations. But so number 1 is Aries. It's fire, and it's the fire starter, and it's the initiator. And Aries always has to be first. Aries is always considered kind of self-concerned, selfish, if you will. Not that anyone who has Aries is like automatically selfish, but there's an element that is very self-concerned with Aries. It's really just about the self, right? I have North Node in the first house, and I can't deny the nature that North Node in the first house is very concerned with itself, right? It's not concerned with everyone else. I mean, other factors might be. You have to look at the whole chart, but North Node itself is about the self in the first house or in Aries. They manifest differently, right? My father was North Node in Aries, and he was very different from me, and I could see it. But it depends on the house, right? But in any case, so 1, it has that significance, and it's not arbitrary. Some people are like, the numbers don't have anything to do with it. They definitely have something to do with it. They have everything to do with it. It's integral. You cannot separate it. It's totally integral, and I'm going to show that to you. Number 2 is Taurus. Why? Because they're standing on 2 feet. The Taurus itself is standing on 4 feet, but 2 represents stability, and that's 1 does not. 1 represents focus, right? Aries are so focused, right? They're so like, let's think later, like fuck thinking all together. Let's do action. Like, let's go. That's Aries. Number 1, focus, right? There's the incredible contraction of energy with Aries. With Taurus, it's 2. They're stable. They're not going anywhere. They're just sitting on their 2 cheeks of their butt, their 2 legs, and they're just sitting there, and that's it. Like, that's Taurus. Like, I'm not saying Taurus can't move, they can't work hard. Of course they can, right? But they're very, very stable, right? Nothing's more stable than a Taurus. And a Taurus is also really simple. They like to break things down in its most simple forms, right? A Taurus is great with numbers, great with facts and figures, great with taking complex things and reducing them to their most simple, subtle forms, right? I have Mercury and Uranus, no, not Uranus, Jupiter, South Node, Descendant, and Chiron in Taurus, right? So I'm pretty familiar with the Taurian energy. Taurus has an excellent understanding of simple things like yin and yang, right? A Taurus can understand yin and yang really well because it's binary, right? It's just, you only have one option, right? And it's completely natural for a Taurus. And what is Taurus's most go-to response with anything? It's either yes or no. Taurus is not going to elaborate unless they have some, a lot of Gemini in their chart. It is like, do you want to do this thing, Taurus? No. Do you want some food, Taurus? Yes. They're pretty simple if you could get down to it, right? So they're very binary, very simple, very stable, and they represent the number 2, right? Number 2 is a line, right? It's just sitting. Number 3 is a triangle, right? Number 3 is Gemini, and this is not Illuminati. This is a triangle, by the way. Just when I'm doing it, because I don't give a shit what they do. They don't own the triangle. Just so we're clear. Like, people are like, anytime they see a triangle, they're like, Illuminati. Like, they don't own triangles. I can use triangles. I can claim triangles. I'm a Gemini, right? But anyway, because Gemini is 3, and it's represented by the twins anyway, but it's much more. See, that's why I always had a problem. I understand it, but it's like, don't get caught up in the twin thing. It's actually, if you want to understand Gemini, it's the triangle, right? The 3, the Trinity. Because what does triangulate mean? It means you get 3 points and you calculate a third point, of a center point from the 3 points. That's a triangulation, right? You can that's how people can center upon something. And so a Gemini makes points, and they make another point, and then they make another point, and then they make another point, and then they're connecting the dots, right? It's a very Geminian thing. It's very dynamic. The triangle is extremely versatile and dynamic. It's a prime number. Prime numbers play very well into this, right? You have to understand numbers. We'll get into that. But 3 is prime number. It's interesting, it's dynamic, and it's universal, right? Well, all the numbers are universal, but the triangle is prime. It's basic, right? They build bridges out of triangle because it's the most stable, right? Then we get to number 4. That's Cancer. 4 breaks down into two Tauruses, basically make a Cancer, or 4 Aries, right? I mean, we're not going to break things down into single digits because you can do that with anything. But like 4 is not prime. It's the point. And all the water signs are not prime because they break down their water. That's part of water's nature, is that it's not prime. It breaks down. It transforms. It's not stable, right? Water will never wants to stay the same. It's like it evaporates, it rains, it freezes, turns ice, turns to snow, turns to sleet. It's so many different variations of water. It flows in a river down to the ocean, evaporates, rains, clouds. If it stagnates in a pond, it gets fermented. It's not stable. Water is not stable. Therefore, it's not prime. And water is always breaking down, right? 4 in Japan is the number of death, but water relates to death, right? So that's a literal connection because 4 is not stable. 4 breaks down. Japanese understand numbers. If you want to understand numbers, go to Japan or study Japanese. 5 is prime. 5 is Leo. Leo's stable. Leo's fixed. 5 is like such a strong prime universal number. Five fingers on 2 hands, right? And 5, like number 3, is prime. Leos and Geminis, foundational. You can't break them down. You can't break down a Leo. Have you ever tried to break down a Leo? They don't break down. They're just like, they can come in being like the sunshine, happy as a cloud, cheery and all that. And, me being Scorpio rising, sometimes I want to, break down a Leo a little bit. Just like, maybe you're a little too happy. Maybe you're a little too proud and egotistical. Like, let's break you down a little bit. You can't do it. I mean, you can do it for like a little bit, right? Like, you can get them down. Like, it's sort of like, make the Leo frown a little bit. But soon they're just like bright as shiny and sunny as ever. Like, it's not going to last for long. They're primed, right? Can't break down a Leo, not for long anyway. I've tried. Number 6 is Virgo, and Virgo is made out of 2 Geminis, and 2 Geminis, twice the wit, right? I guess that's my moon sign. But 3 and 3 make 6, right? And if you got two Geminis, 1 in each hand, it's like you're a ninja because you can throw them like stars. And I mean, I guess that's Virgo. But the other thing is that triangles are sharp, and so I always think about like Virgo with razor blades, like 2 triangular razor blades, and they go around like cutting things up because they're so critical, right? And they're slicing and dicing, and that's Virgo's nature, is to slice and dice and reorganize and rearrange, and get rid of the useless stuff that no longer, that doesn't make sense, isn't worth it. They're going to keep the valuable stuff, yeah, Virgos walk around with 2 Geminis in their hand, 2 Gemini razor blade triangles, and cut and slice and dice. And so they're very sharp and smart that way. Number 7 is prime again, and we're talking about Libra. And Libra is fair and balanced and peaceful because 7 is it's not only prime, it's like a really balanced number. It's like 7 days a week, 7. How many associations are there with? I should have done a little more research, but 7 7 deadly sins, or 7 levels of judgment. 7, there's so many 7s, right? There's a lot of them out there. I just don't know them all. I can't remember them all. But 7 has a very peaceful quality, and so like septile is a 1/7 of the chart, right? They have that quality. They're very peaceful. But peace, balance, prime, can't break it down, doesn't break down. Libras are solid, right? Even though the sun doesn't do that well in Libras get shit done. I always say they know how to really interact with people and make things happen because they're so good at socializing and networking and just being good with people. and fair and balanced, and they're the judges of the zodiac. They really are. The Virgos are the critics, the Libras are the judges. So there's a difference. Then we get to number 8. 8 is not a prime number. 8 is Scorpio. 8 breaks down, right? 8 breaks down into 4 and 2. 2 4s or 4 2s, however you want to put it, right? So not prime. 8 is related to death. 8 is related to sex, and sex is not prime either. People who put sex in the 5th house don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm calling you out. That's stupid. That's wrong. It's bad astrology. Sex does not belong in the 5th house. Sorry, just focusing. 5th house is prime. Sex is not prime. Do you understand this? Sex is a buildup of energy, a climax, and a breakdown. It's number 8. You don't climax and then you're like, oh, I'm full of, I'm nothing's changed and I'm stable as ever. You're like, oh, that was so good, or whatever, whatever you do after sex or whatever. But you're broken down. You're empty, right? That's why they tell fighters don't have sex. You know, anyone who's like an athlete or a performer who needs tons of energy, don't have sex. It's gonna weaken you. You're gonna be broken down. You're gonna go through the death cycle, and you're not gonna have any energy. That's 8. That's Scorpio. It does not belong in the 5th house. That's wrong. It's wrong. I'm not pussyfooting. They're wrong. Okay? Take that to the fucking bank. Tell everyone. I don't give a shit. They're wrong. 8 breaks down. Sex is 8. All right? So you have to understand numbers. And that's one thing a lot of people don't understand about astrology. All right. Number 9 is 3 Geminis, right? That's why they're Sagittarius is like the clown jugglers. Very high-minded, very lofty, very brilliant, it's super complex. You take 3 Gemini and you're like, wow, that's like very lofty. That belongs in college or a philosophy book or religion or whatever, Trinity, right? Father, Son, Holy Ghost type stuff there. But yeah, they're jugglers. Sag are jugglers because they're juggling 3 sets of 3 and they get number 9 out of that. But it's not prime either. And then you get to number 10, which is also not prime, but it's 2 Leos. It's a Taurus and 2 Leos, or 5. Well, how 5 Tauruses or 2 Leos. I mean, but anyway, 2 and 5. I mean, I'm playing, but it's fun to think about it like this. But anyway, yeah, and that also relates because Leo's sort of like, and Leo's royalty, like Leo's the king, Leo's the queen. Where Capricorn is really the ruler. Capricorn is the real leader, and that's why there's separation. You have the royal families, but the royalty are not really making the laws. They're just like figureheads, right? They're like the stage leaders. Another way of looking at it is a person plays a Leo role when they're in the front. They're the face of an organization. That's a Leo kind of thing. So Leo definitely has a role in leadership, right? But Capricorn is the real leader. Capricorn is the real boss. But they don't like, Capricorns are not interested in being the face, the bright sunny performer with the spotlight on. That's a Leo thing. And that's the differentiation. And that's why it actually does work when you break these numbers down and you take them to their constituent denominators, right? 2 number 5s or 5 2s or whatever. But basically that number 10 has 2 5s in it, 2 Leo. So Leo and Capricorn are related that way. And it does relate to the numbers. This is what I'm saying. This is very elegant and very magical and very subtle and very real, like to understand these numbers. And 10 is a very round number, a very whole number, a very complete number, 10 fingers, 10 toes, right? But 5 on each hand, right? 5 is the prime, 10 is the conglomerate, right? Royalty came first, in fact. And royalty was playing the role of leadership. Then they realized They need like the Capricornian type leadership. Plus the Leo doesn't go away, right? Leo's prime. Leo's never going away. You're never going to really not need the figurehead, right? The person who's playing the role in the spotlight, whether they're actually calling the shots or not, right? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but you still need that figurehead, the person who is willing to be in the spotlight and, you know, take all the credit for all the things that Capricorn's actually doing. And then number 11. Number 11 is the most fun because 11 is prime. And Aquarius know this. Like any Aquarius or Uranian type will be like, we know. We're prime. Like 11, like, can you imagine a circle with 11 points? And it's like, not even, it's prime. It's a prime number. And it's like hovering there with all sorts of like magical intensity. And it's an air sign. All three air signs are prime numbers because the world of ideas has to work, right? You can't have an idea that doesn't work as a thing. Like, it's just like, get rid of it. Like, we're not dealing with that. But like, it works in other, like, you know, like Scorpio, for example, doesn't want to be prime. Scorpio is not prime. It needs to break down. That's part of its nature. But an idea, the world of air, has to be prime, or otherwise you can't deal with it. You can't have just like an idea for a motor that doesn't run. Like, that's nonsense, right? Or like an invention that just doesn't work. Like, what for? Like, just throw it away and start over, right? Aquarius is about the high level, abstract, ideological thinking. Like the highest level of thinking that you can get to is really what Aquarius is about. The most complex, the most prime work. It works, but it's also very elaborate and high-minded and complex, right? It's the only way to put it. It's not the only way to put it. It's the only way I can put it right now. But it's brilliant. It's genius. Like, if you can make such a complex idea work, it's like you're a genius, right? So that's why Aquarius and Uranus are associated with this very high level, you know, genius type inventive thinking. Then you get to 12. 12 breaks down into all kinds of things: 2 6s, or 3 4s, 4 3s, 6 2s. I mean, you name it. It's so versatile in how it can break down. And that's like every bit of, you know, the descriptive of the Pisces nature. Pisces just break down in every which way possible, right? It's like there's no end to how they can break down. You know, whether it's drugs or alcohol or delusion or fantasy or just like, you know, laying in bed all day or who knows what. Like, I mean, you know, go ask a Pisces and all, and how that, all the ways, different ways that they can break themselves down. I mean, they'll tell you that I don't really have anything in Pisces. I mean, I have the Neptune, but everyone has a Neptune anyway. Yeah, Pisces just breaks down and then, you know, builds itself up again and breaks down, and it'll break down in a different way, but it's very you know, complex and elaborate. It's the final number, and definitely not stable, right? Aquarius is stable. Aquarius is, you know, fixed air, but Pisces is mutable water. Like the most, like, you just, it's like holding a fish. You can't hold on to it. It's gonna, you know, do whatever it wants. And so this is just a brief overview to get you thinking about different things. You know, yin and yang, 5 transformations, 9 key, 10 heavenly stems, 12 earthly branches, and the 12 signs and houses of the Western zodiac and Vedic. Yeah, the 12, by the way, the 12 earthly branches are the 12 animals of the Chinese zodiac. It all ties in. I studied all of it. It's been my lifelong study. I've learned all this stuff through my father. Not all of it, but especially the primary stuff, the initial stuff. So yeah, I hope you found this interesting, and you know, I will talk more about it, I'm sure. I've been meaning to do a whole video on yin and yang, but I just need to get some material. It's actually a lot more involved than you would imagine, right? It actually is. So I've been mentally preparing for that one. I want to do it justice because it's not something that you can just kind of you know not prepare for and just go at it. At least I don't think so. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting, and book a reading with me, macroastrology.com. That's my website. Macrogoalmachine@yahoo.com is my email. And like, subscribe, share. Mediocre astrologer signing off. Meh, he's okay.